Okay, traders, welcome back to Trading with Market and Volume Profile course. We're on chapter number 12. And now, after we talked about TPO day types in the last video, we're going to talk specifically now about TPO open types. So with the day types, that is to give us a good structural understanding of the how the auction process happened during a specific session or day in order to help us prepare then for scenarios in the upcoming session. Okay, so for those ones, you usually will be playing with a previous profile and then identifying the characteristics of that day in order to form your strategies. With the TPO open types, this one now we're going to specifically be seeing how we can use the opening range, the first hour of trading, or even the first period of trading to help us guide us for that same session. So this is going to give us opportunities to identify what type of session or day it is setting up to be, and then we can adapt and then form our strategies for that trading day. So not only can we identify day types, but if we catch it early on the open type, this can help us get well positioned for the session and be on the right side of momentum. So, if you identify a market that is starting to get very bullish right from the start, we see that the other time frame, the institutional traders are in control going long, and we see there's higher highs, higher lows. There's a lot of singles being formed to the upside, etc. Then that's obviously a very bullish momentum, and those are days we do not want to be trying to fade, and we want to be sticking with long plays, for example. So the categories of openings that we have are open drive, open test drive, open rejection reverse, and open auction. And again, all this theory, this is taken from all the material from Stoudemire and from the Jim Dalton books as well, which those two traders are considered the godfathers of market profile trading. So let's start off with the open drive. These days have a lot of momentum right at the open. The session opens usually above or below the previous day's session value area and trends for the remainder of the day or session. On open drive, no prices were traded above or below the open. Okay? And so in this case, this is a chart of the S&P 500. Here we have the extended trading hours, and here we have our regular hours, and you can see how market opened up. In this case, we did open within the value area of the extended trading hours, but then you can see how right from the start, we literally did not even push up one tick to the downside, but instead we just started pumping really aggressively. These days are not very common, this type of sessions, but they do appear. You can see we did have a nice wide opening range here on the A and B periods, and then you can see how we have a big singles here, a big common gap, and we left pretty much a profile with a low volume node here, and we ended up closing right around the highs. But you can see how on this day, right from the very start, we know that the momentum for that day was to the upside, and this is not a day that you want to be trying to fade or trying to catch or predict the top and go short. This is another example where we had, in this case, the extended hours, and let me go back. This is the extended hours, and you can see we had a news event here. This was probably a non-farm payroll day, or maybe a CPI inflation number release. So this was the 8 a.m. Candle, the 8 a.m. period, and I'm sorry, the 8:30 a.m. period. And you can see, because always those releases will happen around the 8:30 a.m. Eastern time mark, and you can see the reaction. We ended up closing the extended hours here. Markets open up here. New York stock markets open 9:30 regular trading hours, and you can see how the market just immediately pushed up, and we pretty much chucked right around here, but you can see a P-shaped profile right here, and we ended up closing right around the highs. So you can see in this case we had a fundamental event already in play right before the regular trading market opens. So we just looked in this case to see the confirmation for the momentum and continuation when we opened up the session. Then we have open test drive. So this is very similar to the open drive, but market will usually have some kind of pullback or test a significant prior level before the momentum hits. Okay, so these important levels, this can be a point of control or a value area extreme, or it can be, the edge of a high volume node, or it can be the previous day high or low, previous week high or low. It can be, even like an important long-term moving average or a VWAP, etc. Okay, and then this is a Euro US dollar example. You can see how we had one day here, we opened up here, we closed here. So we had this nice big high volume node. We have value area high, value area low. And you can see the next day at 5 p.m. Eastern during the Asia session, we open here, pull back right into the value area low. We retest that, and then we break out, retest higher highs, lows, and then we just continue the momentum into the London and the New York open, okay? So in this case, we had an open, a test of the value area low from the previous day's market profile, and then we just go from there. And then on the right side, we have an example of Bitcoin US dollar. This is a screenshot from TradingView, and you can see we had a double distribution day with a big singles print right here, a low volume node, and you can see how we opened up here for the next day, and we pull down pretty much right into this ledge right here from the market profile. We touched in there, so you can see there was 2 straight periods of support at this level. We pull back right into there, and then the market just reversed, and so in this case, when we have something like this, for me, this would be a significant edge, and this one will be a significant level as well, because this is pretty much the edge right before the single prints. So we have 2 significant support levels. So this will be areas where I will be looking to get long. If the market would break down from here, then I will look for a backwards retest, and then we will look at a fill of the singles into this next high volume node. But as you can see, we came back and retested this first ledge of support, and then we just pumped, and we ended up closing the day up here. So that was the open test and then the drive to the upside. Okay, next one, we have the open rejection reverse. So this opens, there is a quick rally right at the open before price hits a major level, and then fails to continue the momentum and reverses. This can be seen as a more common type of open drive. Okay, so remember we said that the open drive was a quick momentum to the either the upside or the downside with no interruption and just continuation. This one is similar, but in this case there is a quick movement at the open where we hit a major level, and then the continuation fails, and then we reverse. Okay, so in this case we had this profile here with this singles, and the singles are marked over here, and you can see how we had the open, we broke down from the singles, and what did we do? We came here and tested the edge of this high volume node, and then failed to accept inside, but instead we rejected, and then we just started consolidating and ended up going on the upside here. Here's another example. In this case we have, this is a SP500, so this is the previous day's regular trading hours session profile. This one we have the extended trading hours, so this was a trading opportunity early in the Asia session, and you can see we have the value area from the regular trading hours. We opened here and had a bearish day and closed right here, and then on the extended hours we opened here, we had a drive up right into the value area low before we had a rejection and we came down. You can see that we did pull back again, and again we broke and we reversed into the same level before pumping up again right before the extended hour session close. Okay, so in this case you can see how we had the quick drive into a significant level. We have a failure to continue and a rejection, and then this could have given us an opportunity to come back down and test the lows from the previous day's regular trading session. Then we have open auction. These are not trend session or days where these are non-trend session or days where there is no momentum at the open, and the market will stay range bound inside of the previous session or day's value area. These days, the best strategy is to fade the value area edges. Okay, so these days are basically where we have we're taking into account the previous day's session or daily profile, and we have an open with not a lot of drive or momentum. So these are days where the large institutional traders are not really participating a lot. It is more retail driven because there's no very significant trending movements. And then as you can see, like right here, we opened up right here, and then we spent almost the entire session within the previous day's value area. We did have this break here late in the session, but then we ended up closing right back within the previous day's profile. Okay, but you can see how we spent the entire day within the ranges of the previous session or day's profile. Here's another example. This one you can see how we had a really huge opening range. Period A and B pretty much dictated the entire regular trading hour session range. We spent the entire day mostly accumulating time and volumes within the initial range. And then this extended trading session was overall a pretty balanced day, balanced extended session. We have the open, and we just spent with little momentum, pretty much just ranging within the value area from the previous RTH session. Okay. Okay, so now if we go to the charts, just to go over some recent examples as well, aside from those screenshots. Here we have a market profile of the gold market. This is the CFD, so we have 24-hour periods. And you can see, for example, right here, this was on February 7th. And you can see we had this day's profile. We have our value area, our point of control. And you can see how the next day we had an open right around the point of control area. We had a quick drive into the value area high, and then a failure. And then you can see we had this whole movement down. We actually went and tested again the lows from this. We did have a quick pullback into the same level again, and then another rejection and just a very big down move as well, which did come back. But you can see how here, if we had positioned ourselves early on, we identified this rally, test of a significant level, failure and rejection, and then the movement to the downside. So if we would have identified this early, then this would have given us a lot of opportunities, in this case, to trade the market to the downside on this rejection. This one right here, again, in the gold market, you can see we had an open drive right here, where we had an open right into here. We did have a very small push, but then you can see pretty much we just started going down pretty much for the entire day almost. And we actually have a very nice retest here, and I wanted to show you this. This is going to be one of the strategies that we talked about. Remember how I mentioned when I'm using volume profile, market profile, if we're coming with market structure down, then I love when I see price accepting into a previous high volume node, push back into the top area of this node, and then we look for the continuation down. And we have this one here exactly. You can see we had a double distribution on the previous day. So if I mark out here, let me put another color. If I mark out this is going to be the singles, the extremes of the singles here. You can see how the market came, broke down, then retraced, tested the top edge of this node, and then just continued this momentum down. So that is a very nice example of that. Okay, and here if I go into trading view and just see that same example but on a 30-minute candlestick chart, you can see exactly what we were talking about here. We have the double distribution here. This is the whole singles area, which you can see almost no volumes were accumulated on this impulsive move down. Then you can see we had clear resistance here at the top edge of this node. Then we opened up, and within the third period we had broken down here. We came back, retest, and then just continued. Okay, so that's a very nice example of what I was talking about, of once price accepts in a bearish structure, looking for shorts on the top edge. Plus we had the confluence of the single prints, and also we are, we identified that we are in an open drive here to the downside. This one right here in Euro US dollar is an example of an open auction, a day that we didn't really have a significant or no real trend. You can see we ended up putting a pretty balanced D-shaped profile. We did open near the lows and closed at the highs. However, you can see we pretty much spent almost the entire day within the valley area from the previous day. So the previous day we did have a pretty wide profile, and then you can see how we pretty much spent almost the entire session right within that. So this was not a very significant trend day. So days like this, what you're going to be looking for is mostly, just to try to trade the edges of value. Like in this case, you can see if we open here, probably, you're looking at, edges from this nodes right here. You're obviously tracking the point of control, the value area lines, etc. But these are days where you can expect more rotational movements instead of more, unidirectional price movements. Here in the NASDAQ market, we have an example of the open rejection reverse, where you can see we had the extended market hours profile right here. And you can see we closed right at the highs. We had the open here. We had a very quick move down into value area high from the extended hours session. And immediately this fails to continue the downside momentum. And then we have a very quick reversal. And then we ended up closing on the highs of the day. Okay, so those are several examples of the of this concept that we were talking about regarding the open types. Again, these are going to help you to position yourself if you can identify them early enough. This will give you some hints as to what kind of day or session you can expect, and then this will help you in your strategies. Okay, I'll see you all in the next session.